Jeff, always good to see you, man. I always love these great topics you come up with. Very timely and poignant, but also just relevant to so many of us. And today we're going to talk about just like finding balance, especially with parenting and we're obviously both married and have jobs that are kind of demanding at times, right? And how do you find balance in that? How do you make sure you're investing the right amount of your time and energy in everything that matters to you?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think first and foremost, I'll just admit this is something I need to get better at. I I have a real hard time with focus, maybe ADHD or whatever we want to call it. But there's nothing that's more important to me than my daughter. And just without a doubt. But I think the competitive person in me, and because my work is what will allow me to provide for her, is also very important to me, right? It's the way that I can create a good life for her, right, or help with that. So I think one of the things I struggle with is, sometimes I'm not as present as I would like to be. Sometimes I'm checking my emails, my phone, or things like that. We went to Disney World. I think my wife made a comment to me at one point that, you're replaceable at work, but you're not replaceable here. It was a very busy time at work, and I was a little, plugged into some things going on. So, hand up in the air, it's something that I need to improve at. But being aware of it, I think, is really important. I remember my father growing up. My dad is a really hard worker, and I really watched and he kind of showed me or kind of gave me a lesson on hard work just through example. I think he would come home from work, 7 o'clock at night, have dinner, and then go into another room where he would continue working, and then go to bed, get up at 5 a.m. the next morning. But my dad was always someone who made time for me, and he, had kind of an open door policy, but certainly every sporting event that I ever, needed to be taken to, he was taking me to the sporting event, playing catch, whatever. Into my adult life, I've run marathons. My family is, my mom and dad show up at the marathons, right? They're there for everything that I do. And I try to my best to do the same thing. My daughter is now 2 years old. She comes up for a nap in the middle of the afternoon. She wakes up from her nap, an hour or two later. Both times a day, she'll come knocking on my office door. And even if I'm on a call, I will say, come in, and I will let her in and give her a hug. And, clients will meet her or my coworkers will meet her. But I try to always set the example that she's going to be a priority for me. And so that's something that I think is important. I also think it's important for your children to see you working. I think it's important for them to see you being committed to something. I know from watching my dad take how passionate he was about his work, that growing up, that if I wasn't working hard, whether it was in college or elsewhere, I felt guilty. I felt guilty because I knew how hard my father had worked for me. And, if I wasn't doing the same, I felt guilt that I wasn't, living maybe in his footsteps the way that he'd like. Same with my mother, who, had a great career and was the first woman in a non-administrative role in her law firm, and dealt with a lot of challenges through that too. And, was really the one who kind of pushed me through high school and college and things like that. So I think it's important, but I think it's why it's important is because they see it. There's one thing to tell someone you got to work hard,
Yeah.
but people adopt ideas on their own. They don't like to be told what to do. So if they see that they have parents that are hardworking, they're committed to something, I think you're setting a really good example for your children. My kid is like a little too young right now for her to really understand like, fully what's going on, but as she gets older, certainly that will change. So that for me is kind of the way that I think about it. You've got more kids than I do, so love to hear your thoughts about it.
Well, we're gonna live to get forever thanks to these types of videos. Our kids may watch these someday. So
Yeah.
I was just looking up this book that my wife has me reading, Good Inside by Becky Kennedy. I think we invest in what matters to us. And Jeff, frankly, like we all have room to improve, right? I mean, the fact that you wrestle with it, I read that like the stuff that we wrestle with, because I've wrestled with faith and like how present I am in my marriage and all kinds of things. If you wrestle with something, it means it matters, and that's a good thing. And so, we're always on a quest for constant improvement. I love what you said about your kid being the most important thing. And I want us to be cognizant, like everybody's in different places, with their partners or their children if they have kids, or other people that are like children in their lives. Some people it's their furry kids, right? And so everybody has people in their life, and it's all about love. Love is the most important thing in the world, whether it's people or it is passions, hobbies. Using your talents to lift everybody up. As I was thinking about this topic for today, this came to my mind immediately. And I meant to do a show on this forever, and I just never have done it. One of my colleagues gave me this diagram a couple of years ago, and I guess it was 2024, end of 2024, so last year. But it's called the inventory wheel of life. And these can be interchangeable, but it's got things like physical environment, your surroundings, where you're living, career, financial abundance, health and fitness, friends and family, marriage or committed relationship, personal growth, spirituality, community service, fun and recreation. And each of these, you kind of want to figure out like, where am I on a scale of 1 to 10 in these areas? You're never going to be a 10 of 10 in all these areas. And so part of it is the ownership and the self-awareness to be able to say, hey, this is my relationship with my kid or my spouse or my work, and to be able to say, like, I want it to be higher. So what am I going to consciously, proactively, intentionally do to make that the case? Now, I was fortunate because I had a very strong career already going, or so I thought, when I had my first kid. And so I became a dad when I was, I think, 28. And, that changed my world. It wasn't all about just me anymore. Like I achieved and I performed out of just sheer adrenaline and dopamine hits and wanting achievement and loving ringing the sales bell and being number one every freaking month over and over and going to President's Club trips. But when she came along, man, it was all about her. I want to give her these experiences. I want to do everything with this kid. She was my little buddy, and I was relatively immature at the time. And so, as compare and contrast, you take that to now, 18 plus years later. I've got three kids, and my wife has me reading this book right now, even by Becky Kennedy, called Good Inside. And it's really all about, that I think when we have struggles between parenting and career, it is because something encroaches when we're with the other. Like you said, you're in Disney and you're being pelted with all this stuff. And, we have a conscious decision. And some of us don't have the luxury to be able to say no. Like, I've definitely been in the situation where, if my boss called, it didn't matter. Like, I had to answer because, my butt was on the line. I mean, I've been in environments that forced me to work 7 days a week. I've been in environments that forced me to work 80 hours a week. And, you know, there's a part of us that, yeah, I get it that, that's bad management. But on the same token, companies can decide if they're going to pay you or not, right? And if you don't do it, then they'll find somebody else who will. It's that simple. And so I had to make a lot of decisions early on, and probably in my 20s and 30s, even when I was a parent, to do what I needed to do to maximize my paycheck and performance. And I made those choices. But that said, I, like you, had parents that were present, and I, like you, made the conscious decision. And as I got better and better, and my performance was so good, I was valuable enough to my team and my organization where I was able to step away when I wanted and needed to, and saying, I am taking off today to go to my kid's recital or my kid's school performance or this school party that they're doing in class. And even to this day, I consciously do that. And the great thing nowadays, Jeff, is, I mean, we work in a different type of world where a lot of stuff happens remotely. So it is easier to step away. You can work more often when you want to. But I'm cognizant that not every work culture is like that. So I would tell people that are grappling with and struggling with the parenting and the career balance. First off, if you're struggling, that's a good sign because it means you care about both. But I think the key element is from your kids' vantage point, they need and want to be seen and heard. They want to know that their feelings matter, and they don't know how to communicate their feelings. And so I love the fact that you said that your kid knocks on the door, wants to come in, and you welcome her in. She talks to your coworkers. I do that sometimes too. And first off, your coworkers or even customers, they love seeing kids. And on the same token, it makes your kid feel like they matter even in this world that clearly matters a lot, because your kids do need to know the value of hard work and what it can build. I want my kids to know why I've worked so hard, why I've written these books, and a lot of that is me wanting to leave something behind for whoever comes after me, so that hopefully someday my kid can read some bit of life advice that I said once upon a time, and it'll make a difference to them. So I'm always trying to think intentionally about making deposits and inputs into my parenting relationships. I never feel like I'm doing enough. I couldn't possibly unless I didn't work and was with them 24/7. But on the flip side of that, that doesn't teach them to stand and be tall on their own either. So I love the fact that we're both trying to lead by example. We're trying to model the right behavior, but we're also very loving in how we try to approach our kids. Always trying to get better.
Love it. I think we see eye to eye on all of this.
We usually do, man. I don't,
Yeah.
I don't, I've yet to find a topic that we disagree. Maybe next year we'll try to find one where we disagree.
Yeah. All right. That'd be fun.
Always a pleasure, my friend. We will see you again soon.
Yeah. Thanks, Carson.
Thanks, Jeff.